evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 698th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you American perspective, our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, and locally in New York on baddogsports.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the chat room is open on YouTube. Come on in, discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. And as we are finishing up this opening round of the MLS Cup playoffs, and I know it's really, really hard to have this international break in the middle of these playoffs, but once again, what are we supposed to do? This is not my fault. This is not your fault. This is not the player's fault or the club's fault. This is the fault of Major League Soccer. After an opening round of exciting and wonderful matches, we have basically the international games, some friendlies, most World Cup qualifiers. We also have these confederations like Africa and Asia that are having their extra rounds to see who will make it to the intercontinental playoffs. And until we finally get ourselves fixed, and until we finally get to the right level of the competition calendar, it's still going to be like this. We're still going to have this interruption during the November international window. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right. But what can we do? What are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. Everything is just silliness, foolishness, and once again, we have nobody to blame but Major League Soccer. This is why the owners need to understand that we have to make this move, and the sooner the better, because it's about time to be a real soccer league. Now, I know what you're saying, but we are already a real soccer league. Maybe so. But some of these issues that we are still having is just interfering with our real soccer league. And once we make this move officially to the international calendar, we will be in a much better position. We will definitely be in a much better position. Because the one thing is for sure, is that once we are aligned with everyone else around the world, without a doubt, we will be fine. I truly believe that. And yeah, there may be some growing pains, but that is the first step of righting the ship to make sure that Major League Soccer and hopefully the other professional leagues can join in and follow suit. It is really something interesting and something special when everything is joined at the hip and when we are all on the same page. And that is the one thing that I believe has been an issue, is that we are not on the same page. We have not put ourselves in a good position. And at the same time, it's just really disheartening to continue to fight this every single time that we have to hope and pray that we get on the international calendar to righten everything. It's been far too long. Now look, at the start of when this league began in 1996, the hope was it would survive. And it has. After the 94 World Cup, it survived. Yes, there were some bumps along the way, but it did survive. It survived, and now it's thriving, and it's doing well. But once again, Major League Soccer misses the point that they are not the only game in town. We have other leagues and other clubs in different leagues. And very soon, hopefully down the road, someone needs to connect the dots to right the ship even more when we have the full calendar and the full pyramid of promotion relegation. Until then, we are still going to be stuck where we are. So until then, when that change does come, until then, we are where we are. And I just want everything to be copacetic. I just want everything to make sense. I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. But I will say this. If you want to see who will join Canada, Mexico, and the United States in the upcoming World Cup this summer, this Thursday and this coming Tuesday, we will have the last two matches in the November international window for those 12 nations fighting to get to the top spot in each group and the two best second place finishers out of the three to go to the intercontinental playoff. Group A, it's going to be between Suriname and Panama. They've already played each other in their two games respectively, and they were both draws. Suriname will be hosting El Salvador, while Panama will be hosting, they'll be on the road against Guatemala. And then in the last one, it will be Suriname in Guatemala and Panama hosting El Salvador. So this is going to be exciting. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for these games. And don't forget also Group B, Jamaica running the table, Curacao just behind by a point or two. Trinidad and Tobago, Bermuda are going to try and play spoiler. We all know Bermuda's done and dusted. Trinidad trying to hold on, hang on for dear life. And then in Group C, Honduras has the lead. Costa Rica, they got the one win they needed to stay afloat, at least to challenge the top spot. And those two will face each other in the last game on Tuesday, November the 18th. Haiti has an opportunity to play upset as well, but Nicaragua is done and dusted. They need to play somewhat of a spoiler. And this is what we want to see. We want to see these teams. Normally it would have been just USA, Mexico, and whoever else joins them. Canada now in the upper echelons, completing that north zone to be dangerous in the region. But now we get to see who will join these three national teams. And would it be interesting? Because as some of you know, and if some of you don't know, Suriname and Curacao are Dutch nations. Curacao, an island, is a Dutch island. Suriname, even though they're located in the northeastern side of South America, they are part of CONCACAF, and they are also a Dutch nation. So could you imagine if the Netherlands, Suriname, and Curacao all qualified for the FIFA World Cup? That would be something special. And this is why we love this game. This is why we love the sport, and this is why we hope. We all hope that something like this could happen. Now, we're not going to say it's a triple threat, but if they get this opportunity to make the World Cup, it would be the biggest story in their nation's history. And then hopefully they can do it again in World Cup qualifying for the next cycle. But that would mean one of those three would have to falter. And then you're, depending on if we're having the octagonal goal again for 2030, who will be in that playoff spot? Or even two playoff spots. Once again, We are now in a 48 World Cup tournament. Isn't it exciting? Now, hopefully, it doesn't go past 64, but we need to make sure the 48 works before they even think about going 64. But the truth is, I don't think they should go 64. Then it's too much. It would be too much and too many teams to go in. And then what? Be like baseball? Bring in more teams than you should? Be like MLS? You have 9 playoff teams, the bottom 2 goes to the wild card while the rest stay at home? No, that can't happen. We need, and FIFA needs to also understand, as great of a job as they've done to make these qualifications exciting, and then we get to the draw in the beginning of December, we still need to make sure this 48 team setup works across the entire board. But until then, we don't know until they play the games. Look, you love this game. I love this game. We all love this game. But one thing is for sure, folks. We cannot have the journey to the World Cup through qualification be muddled and then the tournament itself be muddled. I think they should just end the expansion here because 32 was enough. Now it's 48. Don't go to 64. Just stay right where we are and just watch the madness happen. Here we go. Let me tell you about this segment's sponsor, Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, Dino Luzzi. Crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to this show because real energy comes from real insiders, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. And it also comes from real ingredients, too. Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. My first guest tonight, coming all the way from the Queen City in Cincinnati, Ohio. He, of course, covers FC Cincinnati for Area Sportsnet. He also helps out at Bad Dog Sports with Asian football news. The one and only Kenta Hagiwara joining me tonight. Kenta, welcome back. How have you been, and what is going on, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. It's getting cold out here. It's snowing in Cincinnati in November. It's crazy weather, but it is what it is.
No, it really is. I know it's getting really cold up there. Unfortunately for me, being in South Florida now, I am missing the cold. And normally, no one would say this if they lived down here, but no, I'm a Northeast guy at heart. I'm a New Yorker at heart. I love it when the seasons, the foliage changes. I don't mind a snowstorm every once in a while. Yes, I don't mind putting on the winter coat, but I do miss that. So, but don't say it too loud. I have a reputation to uphold. You know that. But but anyway, Kenta, FC Cincinnati, the hell is real derby against Columbus Crew. 3 games done, and Cincinnati advances. In your mind, how did you think Cincinnati handled this situation?
Yeah, I mean they took advantage of their home field advantage, right? Winning both matches at home by a single goal. I thought they played really solid in the first match. Were really disciplined, and it was kind of a slow match, that first match. If you watch the first half of that of the opener of the series, it was very slow, methodical. Both teams trying to feel each other out, and it's understandable when you have 2 great managers who play very similar systems, trying to figure out how they're going to play the rest of the series, because it's all about adjustments, right? What adjustments you make from at halftime, but it's also what adjustments you make from the first match to the second match to the third match. Columbus made their adjustments in the second match, and they blew Cincinnati out of the water. Got a goal early, got a red card early, scoring directly off that, and all of a sudden you're up 2 goals and a man at half, and it's this kind of a similar thing in the second half. Cincinnati kind of washed it aside, learned some lessons, I guess, from the first 30 minutes more than anything, and were able to piece together a comeback win after conceding what I think a lot of people online consider an offside goal that wasn't called offside. Luckily, that doesn't factor into the final result at the end of the day. But yeah, Brenner on loan from Serie Udinese comes up with the heroics with a brace late, and that's the difference here.
No, it really is. And, I have to be honest with you. I didn't think Brenner was going to get those goals in the third game. I thought it would be a combination or Denke, who's been brilliant since transferring over to FC Cincinnati at the start of the season. I really thought he was going to be the one to do it. But, wow, Brenner just coming out of nowhere and putting in 2 goals to not only tie the match, but to take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a player that coming over back to Cincinnati after relationships kind of soured when he left for Serie A, and for this loan to even happen in the first place. And Columbus were interested in Brenner earlier this year, as reported by Tom Bogert. The deal obviously didn't go through, and he comes back to the team that he played for in MLS and scored 18 goals in 2022. He, had some success at, and he delivers in the moments that I think a lot of Cincinnati fans expected him to all those years ago. The heroics that they expected. The first goal, maybe just a bit of luck at times. The ball kind of just ends up at his feet following a corner. One of the Cincinnati center backs, Tini Chadebe, just goes up for a header. And the ball lands at his feet right in front of goal, and he's able to put it away. The second one is a bit more of a really good first touch after one of his center mids holds up the ball, and he really dispatches that shot well from top of the box. So, yeah, it's the Brenner show, I guess, as many have coined Saturday's match, but it's I think what Cincinnati fans expected from him all those years ago when they signed him.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about this series, obviously, we have the LA Derby, we have the New York Derby, we have the Florida Derby, obviously, the other regional rivalries. But, I believe this is the second time now that both Ohio clubs have faced each other in the playoffs?
Yeah, the first time was in the final in 2023, I guess. A match that Cincinnati was ahead in early. They scored 2 goals, and Columbus clawed their way back in that match. So I suppose there was a bit of revenge here for Cincinnati to be able to be the ones to eliminate Columbus this time around. Than they did it on home soil, which they weren't able to do last time around. So yeah, it's certainly a rivalry that obviously I think more and more MLS fans are kind of paying attention to it, because it's just from a tactical standpoint, it's very unique. You don't see two teams playing such a similar system, and it's all about the adjustments. And both teams have the star fire to be able to take over games at the same time. So it's a really engaging series, and we got a treat with 3 really good matches.
Yep, exactly. What was the difference you think between Pat Noonan and Wilfred Nancy in the technical area? Just basically, punch for punch, adjustment. What do you think was the catalyst to get Cincinnati over the hump and win it at home for Game 3?
In game 3, I mean, I kind of feel for Columbus. They don't have a natural number 9. You look at they brought in Daniel Gostak at the start of the year. He's not, of course, not a 9, but his season for Columbus has really not gone according to plan. And I'm sure if he was in form and you got the Gostak we saw in Philadelphia, he slots right in alongside Rossi and Picard, and it's a different story. They signed the a Palestine international forward in Wissam Abu Ali, and he's hurt and he's unable to play. He was the big target 9 that they wanted 4 games like this, where Cincinnati would have to kind of man up a bit more in the central areas, and they didn't have to do that. I think Columbus, a lot of their forwards were very undersized, is just because of the personnel they had, and so. For Cincinnati, it was a lot of control in the midfield, controlling the wide areas to not let someone like Max Arston take over the game, which they did very well in this match, and that's kind of the difference here. Is they were able to establish kind of the wider channels through their wingbacks early on, and that kind of forced some adjustments early on by Columbus. And
Whoop. Everything okay?
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. It's
Okay.
just I had a weird sound come through. Yeah.
No,
So
that's okay.
again,
That's okay. Just want to make sure you weren't frozen there on me. I was like, wait,
no,
is he
no, no, no,
frozen?
no. I heard something weird come through, and I was like, "What's going on?" Yeah. So I was saying wingbacks. I think so. Again, they were able to win their battles in the wide areas, and then keep themselves in a match ultimately. And then again, it's the difference is you have one player be able to put the ball back in the net twice in the span of like 20 minutes. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's not necessarily coaching and tactic. It's just putting your best players in positions to succeed. And Columbus didn't necessarily capitalize on their opportunities, and Brenner certainly did.
No, he really did, and it's really interesting that Brenner once again comes up the old guard, you might say, getting the two big goals to put Cincinnati into the front foot here for the next round. And of course, unfortunately, well, technically not unfortunately for you, because you'll be paying attention to the fifth round playoff in Asia between United Arab Emirates and Iraq, and we'll dabble into that a little bit, but. What is everyone saying now? You got to wait another 2 weeks now after this international break to take on Inter Miami now in the next round.
Yeah, it's another big matchup. Cincinnati have kind of had Miami's number for a minute, especially at TQL Stadium. You look over the last handful of results, it's gone in favor of the home team here in Cincinnati. So I'm sure there's a level of confidence being able to bounce back after a really frustrating and borderline embarrassing result in Columbus to be able to get a win coming from behind. A lot of these things that, it certainly builds momentum and builds confidence as you go into the third match. And yeah, I mean, Darlington Nagbe from Columbus retires in Cincinnati as a midfielder, one of the best midfielders we've ever seen in the league. Now you have Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba retiring after this year. They could also retire in Cincinnati. There's a potential storyline there of big name players in MLS retiring in Cincinnati this playoff run.
I know. Isn't it weird how all of a sudden that you've got possible retirements coming up at TQL here? If it all ends over on on that pitch, it would be really, really something to get Miami. I mean, feather in the cap and all that, obviously, but still, though. I mean, no offense. I mean, I still go back to that 2023 Open Cup semifinal against Inter Miami, where I mean, I thought you guys had it. You had it 2-0. Then they came back through Messi 2-2. Then they took a lead 3-2. Then Cuba made it 3-3, and unfortunately falling in penalty kicks. But when have these matchups been like, regular season, now playoffs, Open Cup, when you got to face Inter Miami now, not just at TQL, but down in South Florida?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things with playing Miami, and this I don't think this is exclusive to Cincinnati, but there's added level of concentration for any team playing against Miami. There's an extra desire to win, and then now you compound that with the fact that it's the playoffs and it's a win or go home match. I think Cincinnati's been really composed and really disciplined against Miami in every matchup that they've been able to get a result in. And that's something that they're going to need to continue to do. Each match has played out so differently that I don't think there's one underlying kind of central theme that's been the key for Cincinnati to consistently, be able to get these results at home against Miami. But they've been really defensively sound. I mean, you look at the matchups this year in the regular season: 3-0 at home and a 0-0 draw on the road. They haven't allowed Miami to score this year against them in two matchups. So there's that for sure. You're not going to lose a match if you're not conceding a goal. So maybe that's the starter there from the matchups we've seen this year. Matt Miazga potentially, depending on how he trains the next 2 weeks. He's come back to training, so another player to keep an eye on in terms of what he can bring to a back line, especially as the leadership that he brings and from his experience playing in Europe.
Yep, exactly. Now let's go ahead and dip into World Cup qualifying with Asia. Once again, in the fifth round, this is for the reaching the playoffs in FIFA between UAE and Iraq. Who do you think has the better advantage, or do you think there's no advantage at all between these two nations?
It's tough. I have to give my advantage to UAE. I think they've been a bit more consistent, especially defensively. Both teams kind of just struggle to put the ball in the back of the net. And over the course of a two-legged aggregate, it's really hard to just identify what's going to happen. And I said it in my preview over on my Asian Football podcast that it's really just, it comes down to if one player just shows up, it's it's over. Like that could be the deciding factor. You could throw all the how well they did in fourth round and third round World Cup qualification in Asia. It doesn't matter if you show up here in 2 matches in one window. So it's a hard thing to predict. If I had to guess, I think UAE has the slight edge right now. They've been in better form in my eyes. I think they've overall been more consistent in terms of the results. They're not getting blown out. And they've had kind of, in my eyes, some really tough matches that they've been able to overcome. Even like in round 4, that Qatar match, I thought they still had plenty of opportunities to potentially bring it back. Of course, it just doesn't happen with how the controversies with round 4 that I won't get into. There's a lot of them. But yeah, if I had to pick a favorite, I don't think there is one, but I'll give the slight edge to UAE.
Mm-hmm. No, look. I think UAE is probably the better side anyway. I mean, we'll see what Iraq can do and maybe pull off an upset. But that's why they play the games, and it's going to be exciting when they do. Let's go back to the next playoff match against Inter Miami. What do you think Cincinnati needs to do against Miami, and or what do you think they also have to worry about with Miami? It's not just Messi, we all know that, but what do you think they have to be weary of when they got to face Inter Miami at TQL in the next round?
I think sometimes with the Cincinnati team, we've seen it all year where like they go up a couple goals, not that this will happen, but then they switch off and then they let others right back into the match. And I'd like to think that in a playoff match you're a bit more concentrated. But we've seen this team too much this year kind of switch off at times and not play a full 90. So that's going to be big, especially against a team that has so much quality, individual quality that everyone knows who's on this Miami roster. So that'll be big. Also, a player like Evander, he hasn't necessarily really shown up in this playoffs. He hasn't been bad by any means in my eyes, but he has no goal contributions in 3 matches against Columbus. That's something to keep an eye on. From an MVP finalist, you're gonna, I assume, expect Messi to show up and perform against Cincinnati. So you kind of need your playmaking central piece in your attack to be able to contribute as well on the opposite end. So we'll see what he can do in Cincinnati, but that's certainly a player to keep an eye on.
All right. Well, listen, Kenta, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Can't wait to see you next time and keep track of what's going on. Well, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read anything Asian football, of course, he has his own Asian football show online. And he also contributes to Bad Dog Sports and Asian football news. And don't forget as well, if you are a Cincinnati supporter, FC Cincinnati supporter, areasportsnet.com. Kent, as always, I appreciate your time. You have a good night, my friend, and you take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kenta Hagiwara from Area Sportsnet covering FC Cincinnati. Join me now. He is down here in South Florida. He hosts the Futbol Miami TV show, Futbol TV Miami show, everything. And it's total football for him in Miami. Pieter Brown joining me tonight. And once again, Futbol Miami TV. It's a great day to be an Inter Miami supporter. They have finally advanced out of the opening round into the semifinals. Pieter, how are you feeling?
Feel good. I mean, yeah, a lot's expected from this club. We shouldn't be so happy that, hey, we just made it to the second round, but we are, because it's the first time, right? So, but a lot is expected. So we'll see what happens.
Exactly. I have to ask you this. Obviously, it was a misnomer last year against Atlanta United. You won the first game. You went down to Atlanta. They won the second game. And then all of a sudden they pulled that off in game 3 to go on a miraculous run until they lost to Orlando. But when the club went to Nashville for game 2, was that fear coming back to everyone in South Florida that here we go again, game 3?
Yeah, of course. Now, the lucky thing is, really, Atlanta didn't beat us last year. Brad Guzan did. He stood on his head and won that game for that team, or stopped us from winning. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But yeah, you can't help it. It's say, here we go again. I look at that Nashville game. It was cold. It was raining. We got a bunch of South Americans. Yeah, they don't like playing in the cold, wet rain. So, they wanted to win it at home. I mean, they've already shown that, they could beat, Nashville on the road. They did it just a couple of weeks ago. So, worried, yes. I mean, look, I'm still worried. I'm not going into this next round feeling cocky, like, hey, we're Inter Miami and we could beat the world. And, I'm nervous still. So it's, we know where our shortcomings are. So yeah, definitely the nerves were there. But then, once we had this home game, this last game, it, nerves settle down. You start feeling good again,
No, exactly. And that's all you got to do. You just got to calm yourself down, get ready for the game, and move forward, and hopefully you do the job. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here. See, lovely graphics. Right on your screen. That third game, obviously, no Luis Suarez for the situation. I don't want to, bring it back, but it has to be brought back. The 1-game suspension he suffered for the kickback to the Andy Nahar inside the area. Were you concerned that he was not going to play, that it was going to be a problem, or you just like, look, he may be out suspended, but we have confidence in this Miami team?
I mean, yes and no. So Suarez is not the Suarez of last year. He's not scoring a boatload of goals, but he is getting a lot of assists. He is still contributing to this team. So he's still an important part of this team. And, they're right behind him is Allende. Now, Allende, is now actually above him, right? He's scored more goals, 11 goals this season. But Allende can be frustrating because he gets himself into a lot of positions and then kind of doesn't score, right? So he has decent numbers, but they should be a lot better. So yeah, a little bit nervous that Suarez isn't playing, but at the same time, a lot of us feel like Suarez shouldn't be starting anyways. We want Suarez to be kind of your super sub. Yeah, it's great that he's there. He knows how to finish, or he knows how to set somebody else up. He knows how to play with Messi, all that great stuff. But he shouldn't be going 90 minutes. And unfortunately, in this next game, he probably will, because Mascherano just lets, Messi's friends do whatever they want. But really, as fans, we were happy to see Silvetti step up. This guy looks promising young player. Like I mentioned, Allende doing better. So let's see Suarez come off the bench in the future. I know that's not going to happen, but this showed that, hey, this team without Suarez can still win. At the end of the day, it's how far will Messi take us? That's really what it is.
That's very true. And he did it again. Those 2 goals in the 10th and 39th minute. Just amazing. It doesn't matter if they're the weakest of shots or the best of shots or the amazing of shots. Anytime Messi puts the ball in the back of the net, it's world class regardless.
Yeah, I mean, that first goal that he scored, I mean, when I was at the stadium, it felt like it was going in slow motion. It didn't feel like such a strong shot. Now, when I watched it back on TV, it looked a little bit of a stronger shot. But in real time at the stadium, I was yelling like, wow, keeper should have saved that. I felt like it wasn't the best hit by Messi, but obviously defenders in the way of the goalkeeper, Messi putting it in the right spot. I mean, it goes in, but yeah, still think that the mustache should have saved it.
Good old Joe Willis. He should have saved it. Yep. The good old stash. What do you think about Tadeo Allende? He was on fire too, getting those 2 goals in a span of 3 minutes in the second half. What has he brought to this club since coming over?
Like I mentioned, frustration. He's brought a lot of frustration. So I'm feeling like we're getting feedback here, but he's brought a lot of frustration from us, because again, he gets himself in great positions, but doesn't quite finish most of the time, right? But it was weird because when he came into the club, he looked great. I thought, okay, this kid's going to be really, really good. And then somewhere along the way, it just kind of, I don't know, did we break him? and because he just wasn't performing the way you would expect. But he's starting to get back into that form again that he started in. So that's what we need from him. He could stretch the defense, whereas Suarez can't. So we need that speed. And again, he gets himself into positions. He just quite often needs to work on that finishing. Because right now, I mean, if he could have easily 16 goals this season instead of just 11.
I agree. He probably should have more. Just to talk about the managers, obviously, the head coaches, Mascherano and Callahan. What did you when you watched all three games? What's your opinion about the two managers? Did you think this was a big battle of wits between the two, or basically it's just let the players decide and see who makes the next adjustment to get the win?
So I thought BJ Callahan would, do more, learn from what would happen in the first game. Like, if we go in the first game, learn what happened in that game, and then in the second game, learn what they did right, and then really adjust. I think BJ Callahan's probably the better coach over Mascherano. We don't have a high opinion of Mascherano here, so but I did what I didn't see though is him necessarily learning, like putting everybody on Messi, or just really bottling up the midfield and and just putting all guys behind the ball or whatever. We've seen other teams kind of frustrate Messi. We've seen some other clubs in the league throughout the season, give us a real hard time. And I thought BJ Callahan would figure out how to do that. Obviously, it didn't work because, again, when you have Messi's the coach, and he's the one pulling the strings. Although I will say, in this last game, I was pleasantly surprised with the substitutions that Mascherano made. I think they were the right subs at the right time. Sometimes that's one of the things you complain about with your coach the most, is like he's making boneheaded subs. But I thought they were the right subs at the right time. But this, I don't think, had as much to do with the coaches as just, the players on the field, and we just happen to have one of the best, arguably the best player in the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's still scoring goals. There's still nothing to complain about. Nothing. Yeah. Moving on now, you're going to be facing FC Cincinnati in the next round, and obviously there's going to be their national break, which we're in right now. But what gives you confidence? And what gives you grief facing Cincinnati? And I believe you'll be at TQL Stadium in Cincinnati for this.
Mm-hmm. Well, the confidence is, this 3-game or 4-game series really with Nashville. I think we did good. Yeah, sure. They lost a game, but whatever. Yeah, it was one game. They seem to be playing better. Our defense is looking better. I think Falcone is really playing really, really well on defense right now. I was joking around on our show that for next season, I would love to have another Falcone right next to him, just a little bit taller. If we could find a version of him just about 5 inches taller, I'd like that height. But I like the way he reads the game. So, and look, Jordi Alba's playing lights out. Don't get why he's retiring. Don't understand that, because he sure doesn't need to. He can run more than anybody else on that field some nights, right? So there is definitely a level of confidence. It feels like Messi's motivated, which is good. He doesn't want to go a season without trophy, because it's going to become, all the talk, about how we're a failure, right? If we don't win this, all pressure is on us. And that's the other thing that I'm worried about, is all pressure is on us. And Cincinnati's no joke. Cincinnati's a really good team. I'm worried about Brenner, worried about Evander, and what Denke, I think is his name. I'm not looking past Cincinnati. They're going to be a tough team. I mean, we lost to them. We haven't beat them yet this year. So we lost and tied against them this year. So it is going to be a really, really challenging. And I think that I was watching some of that game, their Columbus game, and that stadium it brings a really good atmosphere. So it could definitely be an intimidating place to play, even though I don't think our players, the world-class players, the older players, are going to be intimidated going into that stadium. But it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to feel like a final, I think. Curious to see how many pink shirts are in that stadium, because make Inter Miami feel like home. I mean, how many Cincinnati fans are going to sell their tickets just to make a buck? I mean, that's going to happen, I'm sure. But Cincinnati, I originally felt like our season may end in this round. I was like, we're going to make it to the semis. I was pretty confident of that. Not super confident we're going to go further than that with, our defensive issues that have been a big problem all year. And that's not just the defense. I mean, we like to blame the defenders, but it's breaking down in the midfield when people run past Busquets. Busquets is great, but he doesn't have the speed to keep up. So we definitely have our shortcomings. And so I'm not overly confident against Cincinnati. I'm hopeful. I think they definitely can do it. It just depends on, can they not make a bunch of defensive mistakes, limit, Brenner and Evander's opportunities, and just let, Messi cook.
Exactly. Definitely. Just let him cook. Should be a lot of fun. How's Ed doing, by the way? I haven't spoken to him in a while, man. How's Ed doing?
Ed's doing great. He had a great time at the game as well. He's doing real well, and he was filming our game day vlog in the last game. So he's doing great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I always enjoy talking with you and Ed, if not separately, together. Hopefully one day we'll get you both on the show and have a little fun.
Yeah, his schedule, he works nights. It's a little challenging. That's why we do a Sunday night show, which is not the most ideal night to do a show, but that's when he's available.
Hey, what are you going to do? The man works hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man works hard. I know you work hard as well. And we're almost towards the end of the regular, I should say this 2025 season, but let's talk about it. Next year, Freedom Park opens. The new stadium opens by Miami International Airport and also by the Tri-Rail Amtrak station, which is, I think it's like what? You just go across the street and walk on that bridge, and it's just right over that bridge, I think.
There's no bridge. They're going to build a bridge.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a bridge, like a little creek or something.
There, yeah. There is a little canal, but you'll walk, around it basically.
Okay. All right. I go on Google Maps a lot. I like to take a look.
There's from where the terminal is, they're going to build an actual walkway. For the way it is right now, you would have to cross the street, walk down a little bit, and then go across on the road where there is a little bit of a bridge. But they will be building a pedestrian bridge at some point.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Can't wait. This should be exciting. How exciting is it for you now? I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Chase Stadium, it's a nice little venue. I remember the original Lockhart Stadium. I was there maybe once or twice in the past visiting. Before we ever met, I think Carter Krishnaiyer, and he was there when when Miami FC was there originally, and then the rebirth of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. But I mean, how exciting is this for you and everyone else? A brand new stadium and a little more further south, but still, though, it's a new stadium.
Yeah, the stadium is looking great. It's coming along. We drive down there at least once a month to film a construction video. So we're watching it grow. It's going to be beautiful. For me personally, I'm happy with where Chase Stadium is. I live in North Broward. It's going to be a bit of a hike for me, but for the health of the team, this is the smart thing. And it's a pretty good location. Everybody, it's going to be basically a commercial for the team every time somebody flies in and out of the international airport, Miami International Airport. So that's positive. And everything they're going to be building around it, it looks like it's going to be a great facility. And, everybody has always felt like Miami, not Fort Lauderdale, but Miami is where the team should be. So we'll see if Miami can embrace the team day in, day out, even in good season and bad. We'll see. Hopefully they do. But the stadium is going to be beautiful. So super excited about that. Glad to see that Messi is going to be back. We'll see what the team can do next year surrounding, new players, maybe some youthful players around him. Maybe not everybody 38 and above. That'd be nice.
Of course. Absolutely. I mean, there's got to get some youth in that team. I mean, some way, somehow. I mean, they can learn a lot from playing with someone like Messi. Would probably teach them what to do and how to do it during training and everything.
Well, yeah, sure. And having Messi, obviously, we get that Messi benefit that players may come here, take less money just for the benefit of playing with Messi. I mean, a lot of people think we're cheating when we talk about that kind of stuff. But look, people take pay cuts to come play with Messi. Suarez did, and so other younger players who definitely will. I know Silvetti is one of our newest young players, and he looks promising. And he was gushing at playing with Messi. So they definitely need to stop focusing on these older guys. I mean, all the rumors about Neymar and all that kind of stuff, whatever. I could see him doing it though. Wouldn't shock me if they did it, because as we talk about on our show all the time is Inter Miami a serious football club about winning, or are they really just a marketing club? Are they just trying to sell t-shirts? I kind of lean towards we're a t-shirt company, and that's the first and foremost. And then winning is just the byproduct. That's what they're hoping for. But at the end of the day, they want to sell shirts, and a Neymar shirt will sell. But I would prefer to see some youthful legs out there. Let the young guys do all the running for Messi and build up a young team. And I think, regardless of how this season ends, next season in Miami Freedom Park can be very, very promising and exciting if they do it right.
Now, wait 1 second. Did you say Neymar? Did I hear you right? Neymar coming? Is this the new rumor?
Every time I turn on Twitter, there's just, he is coming, he's not coming. It'd be a stupid decision for him to come. It'd be a great decision to come. I mean, everybody's got opinions, but yeah.
Of course.
That's part of being an Inter Miami fan. Everybody's always rumored to come here. That's the one thing that's kind of fun and frustrating at the same time.
It is. Trust me. I know how that is. I remember when Thierry Henry was rumored to come to the Red Bulls, and no one thought it was actually going to happen until it did. And finally, it was like, oh my God. And then Rafa Marquez came afterwards. And then we had Tim Cahill a few years later. A couple other top American stars came over too, like Kenny Cooper and a couple of others. And it was really fun at that time. But I'll tell you though, Henry was amazing. He really was.
Yeah, that was a good time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, I always enjoy your time on the show. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Good luck. Enjoy the international break, and then get ready for the big wild and wacky Eastern Conference semifinal. I hope you have a good night, and you take care, sir.
All right. Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
Great. Thank you. Once again, Peter Brown from Futbol Miami TV, as we talk about what's going on down here in South Florida with the club as they're getting ready for a break now and then preparing for their big matchup against FC Cincinnati. My next guest, unfortunately, could not join me live, and we did a recording. Now I have to go ahead and get that recording. I had it all set up before, but I had a little issue here before we got on the show. But you all know him. You all love him. I know I enjoy having him on the show. He is covering Minnesota United FC. If you go to his Twitter page, of course, it is Dunord, the website. The one and only Bruce McGuire talking about Minnesota United FC, doing it in 3 over the Seattle Sounders, and here it is right now. Welcome back to the American Soccer Show. This is Daniel Feuerstein reviewing the first round of the 2025 MLS Cup playoffs. Joining me, as always, from the great state of Minnesota, the one and only from the Dunord website, Bruce McGuire, joining us as Minnesota United in another wild and wacky penalty kick shootout knocks out the Seattle Sounders after going 3-3 in regulation time and a 7-6 victory in a shootout. Bruce, Minnesota United has done amazing things this season, whether it's in MLS play, the MLS Cup playoffs, and the U.S. Open Cup. And somehow they captivate our interests. What has it been for you and everyone else in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area?
I mean, in so many ways, I think the fans are grateful. They appreciate the incredibly hard work the team has done, everyone, top to bottom, because they are one of the lowest payroll teams, so they really have to go above and beyond. And I think they clearly have. I think they have done more than the sum of their parts which is, that's what you dream of as a fan. That's all you can ask your team to do, is be better than what you think they should be. And when you look at who they have ousted over the previous season, be it game after game or now in the postseason, it's pretty remarkable.
It really is. And, it really is. And the amazing thing I've seen from Minnesota this season, and I have maybe since moving up from the NASL, the former NASL, to MLS, it just feels like your head coach. And look, don't get me wrong, Adrian Heath did a good job, but there was a time where he had to go. But your head coach right now has just done amazing work. I think he's given them more details to have them to put them in positions to absolutely execute the game plan.
Yeah, he definitely pays attention to details, and that's been a huge thing I've talked about my whole life, is details make everything for me as a person. When I watch someone go after details, I start to pay a lot of attention. And, it's been one of those things where it's not been a pretty season. Let's not get crazy, but there have been moments of incredible soccer, and then there has been guts and fortitude and, dare I say, brains, which we don't talk a lot about in sports. And, it's modern. It's very modern, where what they were playing before was very old-fashioned. And at times it did them really well. And at other times it let them down. And, they got to a U.S. Open Cup final in 2019. They got to the semifinals of MLS Cup in 2020. So it's not like they didn't have any decent seasons. They did, but there's something about what the team is doing right now that you get to the stadium and you really believe, even when, well, I can't go too far. I mean, on Saturday night, there was moments of, this isn't going to happen. So what can you say? I think they've done such a thorough job from top to bottom with who they hired for the technical director, for who the technical director hired for the head coach, for the players they've gone out and signed and brought in, for the players they've retained from the roster over the years. They've just done this really consistent job. And that's what you hope for when you're a fan. You want consistency.
Exactly. That's all you want, because consistency and winning consistently as well. And, once again, just amazing work from Minnesota United FC to put themselves in a fantastic position to hopefully continue on in the MLS Cup playoffs. Now, let's go ahead and review all three games, of course, quickly. Game one at Allianz Field, that was a scoreless match in regulation, but they win it in penalties 3-2. You head across the country to Lumen Field in Seattle, and the Sounders unfortunately got you at 4-2. But in this pivotal match, and even though it was two early goals that put Minnesota behind the eight ball temporarily, what did you see, and how did you see this team work themselves to get into that position to score three unanswered?
I mean, the stadium was completely dead after it went 2-0 in the 8th minute. I mean, there was no life left. And, I think, again, it was their consistency. They didn't quit. They looked each other in the eye and said, we have to get this done. This is our only chance. Today is it. This is it. And we got to figure out some way to do this. And, they simply refused to give up that third goal. And they got lucky a couple of times, but when they got a foul in the right spot and they got set up for a set piece, and Joaquin Ferreira stepped up and drilled a great free kick. And, have you ever seen a bad free kick goal? I haven't. I think they're all incredible. And so anytime you can nail a free kick goal, it was a thing of beauty, and it just brought the whole stadium back to life. It was amazing. It was CPR better than I've ever seen on a TV show or movie, and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
for him, the end of his season was not great. The first 2 games in the playoffs were not great. He struggled. It's almost like he had run out of gas. And then to step up and hit a free kick like that in that moment when the team needed him more than ever, because I think if he's not the MVP of the season for the team, he's right there. I guess Dane St. Clair takes that, but Pereira was right there most of the season until they came down the stretch, and he just kind of didn't have it anymore. So to step up for a guy like that in that moment and nail that is pretty glorious. And
it really is.
And to watch them, they started battling hard after that. And then of course, Josef Rosales has another one of his, I just claimed that the team had smarts. Unfortunately, Josef never has had smarts. It's his 4th red card for Minnesota. The team had gone this entire season without a single red card. No one had gotten 2 yellows in a game, never until that moment. And, I saw a little clip from the locker room after the game, and one of the assistant coaches, Dennis Lawrence, said, Rosales, you made a big mistake, but we all make mistakes, and it happens. And we, as a staff and as your teammates, we have your back. And that's why we are not upset with you, but we hope you do better next time. So, although he won't be playing against San Diego because of that red card, but you would think at that moment then that Seattle was probably going to go on and cruise through the second half, because in the second game out in Seattle, they did a masterful job of controlling the second half. They had been up 3-0 in that game. Minnesota stormed back with 2 goals. And then in the second half, they just controlled the pace. They controlled the flow. There was nothing really Minnesota could do. I don't think Minnesota had a shot on goal in the second half, even though the game was tight and it was close. In the end, when Minnesota pushed too many players forward, they got a goal with a ball over the top, and they made it 4-2. That's kind of what I think most people expected in Game 3.
Yeah.
And the first few minutes of the second half, it looked like, that's what was going to happen. And then, crazily enough, Minnesota took out their only forward that they have on the roster, Calvin Yeboah, and they took him out of the game. And then the team just launched forward without a forward. And every guy in that team pushed and pushed and pushed, and they didn't get just 1, but they got 2 goals and took the lead of all things. And I think one of the wildest things was that 3rd goal Minnesota got was scored by Marcanic, and he scored in all competitions 13 goals this season, all on set pieces, and Seattle didn't mark him. And they had a man advantage. They could have put 2 players on him without a problem, and they didn't mark him at all. And he scores the 3rd goal, and on a really great corner kick from Pereira, who once again did his part. And, all 3 goals came off set pieces. I don't know exactly how many set piece goals Minnesota had this year in all competitions. I'm going to say 25, maybe more. At some point during the season, The Guardian from England wrote a big article about them and called them Set Piece FC, and said no one in the world was scoring set piece goals like they were. And, they continued throughout the rest of the season. It's not like it slowed down after people started talking about it and other teams started focusing on it. I mean, Seattle focused on it, and they scored 3 times. Minnesota did on set pieces in that last game.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. And unfortunately, Jordan Morris had to be the Jordan Morris of old, sneaks in that equalizer late in the 88th minute to make it 3-3. And then we go straight to penalty kicks. Both sides in their first 5 to 6 penalty attempts, of course, made 5, missed 1 inside. And then the craziness that the next 2 were stopped or missed from both sides. And right now, that's like what, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 rounds of penalty kicks. 8 rounds of penalty kicks up to that point. What were you thinking right now of, will this night ever end? And will you either celebrate or basically go home in a whimper?
Once it gets to penalty kicks, I don't feel bad if our team loses, because it's such a crapshoot and anything can happen. So, hey, good for the victor. But there was also a real feeling in that stadium that there's no way that Minnesota was going to lose on those penalty kicks.
Mm-hmm.
In the last couple of years, they've been in 5 penalty kick shootouts in different competitions, and they've won 4 of the 5. And so, in a way, they know what they're doing. They had subbed out a lot of their attacking players at that point. There was a lot of, guys who didn't get a lot of minutes this season, who were, what do they call them in cycling, water carriers?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's who they were. And not all of them stepped up, but some of them stepped up in a big way to bury penalties. And it was, I don't know how much you could really tell on television. All I've seen in replays is just, when they go from one clip to the next. But when it's between the kicks and you see everything from the players at midfield to the players that are not in the screen to everything, it was pro wrestling out there. There was stuff going on all over the field from people. And there was a lot of talk, a lot of trash talk from both sides. And it was pretty damn interesting. And after the game, Dane St. Clair talked about how he took a yellow card on purpose to try and throw one of their penalty takers off. He knew what he was doing, and he knew how far he could push it, and he decided to push it further and got booked. And it didn't work in the end because, it was Alex Roldan, and he scored his, but it still threw another element into the whole proceedings of, who is going to win the trash talk, I guess you could call it, for lack of a better thing. I know people who were directly behind the goal. I know people who were right beside the goal. And they all talked about just the chaos and the insanity and the words that were being exchanged between people. And then the Seattle goalkeeper, when he saved those 2 in a row against Marcanic and Dotson, he was really going after the crowd that was behind him in the stands. And that's, hey, good for him if he can pull it off. But then he had to step up and take a penalty. And Dane St. Clair took his first, and he scored it so easily. And now all the pressure's on this guy who had barely played in the game, and he's talking a lot of trash, and he has to take a penalty, and he smashes it off the crossbar.
And that, my friends, is how that series ended.
Yeah.
Wow. When you get the goalkeeper wars in the penalty kick shootout, that's where the fun really comes into play, boy. I tell you, you just want to see what the goalkeepers can do. And when Dane St. Clair does it, it's amazing. And unfortunately for Andrew Thomas, all that trash talking, maybe 3 to 4 kicks earlier, 2 to 3 kicks earlier, I should say, it comes back to bite him in the rear end, and it's just terrible.
It doesn't look good. No, it doesn't look good. And a few years ago in the Leagues Cup, Minnesota was playing Necaxa, and it went to penalty kicks. And the Necaxa goalkeeper came from the sideline with a water bottle, and it turns out he had all the Minnesota players' tendencies written on that water bottle. And he was in goal first, and he went up and he laid his bottle down, and Minnesota scored, and he came jogging back over, and Dane St. Clair went up to step into the goal, and he saw the water bottle laying there next to the goal, and he picked it up and he walked behind the goal and he tossed it into the stands. And that's the kind of guy that he is in penalty kicks. That wasn't new this year or last year when they took out Salt Lake twice in penalty kicks last year. And so he's just that kind of guy. And so when you have that kind of a goalkeeper, and he casually stands there, touches the crossbar above his head without jumping at all. He puts his arms out wide. It causes people to take penalties that they wouldn't normally take because they're, I don't want to say they're intimidated, but they know he can get to those corners.
No, absolutely.
And it makes a difference. It really does.
It really does. And Dane St. Clair does the job. He converts the penalty to win the shootout. And he kind of put the little scare into Thomas to get the shootout victory. That's all you can say there, Bruce. You're taking on San Diego FC.
Yeah.
They had a great regular season. They went the distance against the Portland Timbers. You're heading over to Southern California. What do you think Minnesota needs to do after the international break to go to San Diego and Snapdragon Stadium and to take them out to advance to the Western Conference Final?
Well, like everybody in your conference, they played each other twice this season. When San Diego came to Minnesota, they really slapped the Loons around and won it handily, including Anders Dreyer hitting one from the midfield stripe. And then Minnesota goes out to San Diego very late in the season. I think there was 4 games left at that point. And they did the exact same thing to San Diego that San Diego had done in Minnesota. They slapped them around. It was a tight game. It was a close game like most Minnesota games are. And they hit about the 60th minute, and Minnesota scored 3 in a very quick succession, including a goal from the midfield stripe. So both teams got each other from midfield during the regular season. They both put each other to the sword at home, or I should say on the road. The home team lost pretty badly both times. So I think this makes for a fantastically interesting setup. It really does. It really does.
No, it really does. I agree with you. We're going to have a lot of fireworks. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for 2 weeks, but still, though, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what Minnesota United will do against this upstart San Diego FC side. So can't wait for that. And Bruce, as always, I always appreciate your time. I always appreciate you coming on for the show. I hope to have you on again after the international break, and good luck in the Western Conference semis.
We shall see. It should be a great game. I'm expecting nothing less.
All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Take care.
And that was Bruce McGuire from Dunord on Minnesota United FC's victories over the Seattle Sounders. As once again, just great to have Bruce on. Well, knowledgeable guy in Minnesota. Just so happy to have him on the show. He's one of those guys, just love to talk with him hours and hours and hours, talk about soccer and everything else going on, especially even what goes on in the, daily life. Just love to talk with Bruce. He's a great guy. My next guest, once again, could not join me tonight. Had to do another recording with him. Of course, he is the radio voice of New York City FC. He is also the Coaching Academy show on SiriusXM FC, and the former women's head coach of Rutgers University. This is Glenn Crooks, and here he comes right now.
And welcome back to the American Soccer Show, as we're going to continue on with the Round 1 review of the 2025 MLS Cup playoffs. Joining me right now, former head coach of the Rutgers women's soccer team, New York City FC radio broadcaster, the one and only Glenn Crooks. And don't forget to listen to his coaching show on SiriusXM FC. And once again, Glenn, it's great to have you back on the show. First time now on video here on the 40 Scenes Fire American Soccer Show. It's great to see you, and how are you?
Yeah, well, that's all podcasts are video now, right? I mean, that's the way of the world. You got to go video.
We all have to evolve somehow.
Yeah.
So here we go. New York City FC, took it to the distance again in the opening round. They did it against FC Cincinnati last season. They do it again this season. I mean, look, I know they advanced into the semifinals of the Eastern Conference, but is there a concern after you win the first game in Charlotte, then you don't win the second one at home? Is there a concern how this team is not at least taking it in two in the opening round?
No. No, because I mean, if you take the, you got to look at the entire season and take the different parts of that season and how it's gone. And I think, the fact that they won 2 on the road, the Yankee Stadium game, it was really I mean, for what expected goals are worth or the flow of the game and things like that. New York City didn't play as well as they did in the first, but they could have come out with more than a 0-0 draw. And actually, Charlotte also had a massive opportunity in that game. Each team had like one great chance. But the fact that they had 2 clean sheets in the first 2 games and the second game included Zaha, it was, I think, the most significant thing that we could really refer to. And then it was a bit of a crazy goal where there was a defensive error, but a bit of a crazy goal in game 3. 1 goal conceded in 3 games, 2 of them on the road. 2 of those games on the road, which is the 1 goal conceded in game 3. I don't think there's any concern at all from what happened in game 2 in terms of the second round.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you there. And once again, they're off into the Eastern Conference semifinals. They're on the road against the Philadelphia Union. We'll get to that in just a moment, just to bring up the graphic real quick. Just talk about that second game. That was such a wild and wacky penalty kick shootout. I'd be honest with you. I don't know how that game ended the way it did. I thought it might go longer.
Well, first of all, you have Agustino Heda walking up for the last kick. And, the one thing, if you're not at the game, and it's interesting because I spoke to someone regarding Apple Television and their coverage of the penalties, and they're in a replay while players are walking up, which I don't like. And it depends on who the producer is, because apparently in game 3, if it had gone to penalties, the producer was going to stay with the walk up, because you get a feeling, and especially with TV cameras, get right on that player. And if that player is on edge or doesn't want to kick or is just like feeling it. But you got the feeling that Agustino Heda did not approach that with a lot of confidence. It wasn't a poor penalty, but and Kalina made a decent save diving to his left, but that's your last play. But more importantly, before that, poor Agustino Heda probably should have never been in that position, because Julian Fernandez had a chance to make it 4 consecutive successful penalties to make it 4-3 in the shootout, and he missed the target. He had Kalina going the other way, and he just simply missed the target. That was the more egregious or seminal moment of the penalty kick shootout.
No, I bet it definitely was. And just amazing how they pushed it to a game 3. Alonso Martinez has just been a terror all season long for City, and he does it again in the third game as well. It's just, how important has he been to the attack, not just during the regular season, but now in that important first game and that third game?
Well, sure. He scores the game winner in game 1, and that was his 3rd consecutive goal, or the 3 goals consecutively from the September 20th game. New York City beat Charlotte at Yankee Stadium 2-0. And then that first game, that's Alonso Martinez scoring all 3 of those. So at that moment, he had scored the last 3 goals against Charlotte, the 2 penalties on September the 20th. And then he gets this one, which is the game winner. And, well, game-winning goals are his thing these days, right? That's his 12th game-winning goal of the season, all competition. So when you consider his value, that's all you need to see. And that's by far the top margin, the top figure in MLS. So he has been, without him, they're probably not even in the playoffs.
I agree. And of course, Matt Freese has really improved himself this season. He's now part of the U.S. men's national team. He'll be in the November friendly matches coming up. And many believe he'll be on that World Cup roster when Mauricio Pochettino makes his decisions, who's going to go next summer. What has he meant for the club since getting this opportunity to be the full-time starter?
Yeah, I think when they acquired Matt Freese, in fact, what I had heard at one point is they were trying to get him even sooner. But Luis Barraza was the number one, replacing Sean Johnson. And that had sort of been promised to Barraza. And they really hadn't gotten a good long look at him other than taking matches when Sean Johnson was away on international duty himself. And Barraza had done well in a majority of those matches, including a Campeones Cup 2-0 triumph. So it looked good for him. But Freese came in, and he is the better keeper, and that showed itself over time. Love Luis Barraza, incredible team leader, but Freese is a better goalkeeper. So he took over. And what a good goalkeeper does, or one that is of the level of Matt Freese, it would be any goalkeeper, is the team is comfortable in front of them, and therefore they might take some more risks. When you have a keeper that you know that if something breaks down, they're going to come up with a save, you don't have to be concerned as much as how you kind of go about things going towards the other goal.
No, absolutely so. And I've enjoyed Matt Freese, especially in this past Gold Cup in that penalty kick shootout against his own teammate, Alonso Martinez, in Costa Rica. I think he stopped Alonso, or maybe Alonso got him.
No. Matt had 3 saves in that penalty kick shootout, which really put him on not only the national map, but I suppose the international map. And but only one was converted against him, and that was the number one guy that came up, Alonso Martinez. So the guy he knew the best is the only one that got past him.
Yeah, that's true. It's just amazing. Isn't it funny sometimes, you got 2 teammates, but they play on different national teams, and then they face each other in a penalty kick shootout, and one of them's the keep. I mean,
And I should correct myself. It wasn't the only one that got past Matt Freese, but it's the only one where he went the wrong way. He was on all the penalties, and he had 3 saves. So that just to clarify, just in case somebody's listening, they email me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So
everyone's listening, Glenn. Everyone is listening.
That's all right.
It's his first season with the club, but head coach Pascal Jansen, overall at this point right now, how do you think he's done so far?
He's one of the best coaches in the league, and I wouldn't hesitate for a second to say that and say Bradley Carnell, manager of the year, no question. He's a runaway choice and well-deserved for, what did Philadelphia improve by, like 29 points or 26 or 29 points? I mean, that's phenomenal. But Pascal Jansen, just the overall, just covering everything, the tactics, the management of the team, how the discipline, yet the relationship he has with the players. It's really interesting, the respect that they seem to have for him. And they're not afraid of him, but they also know that, they have to comport themselves in certain ways. But he's also there to put his arm around them. And we've seen in a couple of post locker room celebrations, he's willing to get in there. And but overall, just as a man, he's experienced. He's 52 years old. He's had a lot of different experiences. He hasn't been a manager for that many games, I suppose. But I mean, the guy worked under Arne Slot at the Alkmaar and then took over that program for 3 years. And he's a very wise. He's calm. He makes his decisions with a clear head, and he doesn't blame anybody if it doesn't go well. And I like him.
That's great. I wanted to get your thoughts about what Charlotte did. Where do you think they went wrong in this series against NYCFC? I mean, I know Dave Smith's done some good things for Charlotte FC. Zaha's done some good things, but what did you see out of Charlotte that City was able to take advantage of them? The 2 road games at Bank of America Stadium.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Yankee Stadium, I thought, they might struggle again because they did in the 2-0 loss. And Dean Smith, even post-game, was, lamenting playing on a baseball stadium. He made a reference to it in his pregame presser midweek before Game 2. And Wilfred Zaha, Tavon Gray, the fullback for New York City, who goes one-on-one against him, said in that first game on September the 20th that all Zaha did was complain about everything, mostly the field and the stadium that they were playing in. So it's in their heads. But they got through that one. Why they didn't win at home? Well, I think, you talk about the loss of Patrick Hagiwara, and there were many in the camp of Toklamati that he was perhaps even better for that position than Ajamang. But he's a tough guy to handle because of his size and the amount of pace that he has when he runs the channels as well. So even though Toklamati had a goal in the Game 3 and had 11 during the regular year after Ajamang left, which were fantastic figures, I think they'd miss Ajamang because also very good at hold-up play, which maybe Toklamati wasn't as adept at. But if we take everything, and both teams, look, New York City's been missing Keaton Parks a good portion of the year as he had another surgery on his leg. Pep Biel, his absence, I think that was felt more than anything. And also Zaha missing the first game suspended. You got a DP, Abada, who did nothing. And when I say nothing, that's not an exaggeration. He did nothing. Liel Abada in Game 1 and was substituted for, and and they're bringing in 20-year-olds and guys. I think they substituted 3 forwards or 3 attacking players in that first match that had a total of 144 minutes played in the regular year. So depth was an issue as well.
Yeah, that's really tough for Charlotte, but obviously for them, we'll see what happens next season. Now let's go ahead and preview. Of course, you're going to have to wait a while, like the last time with this international break that we're on right now. You're heading down to Subaru Park to take on the Philadelphia Union. As you said already, Bradley Carnell has them ripped roaring, ready to go. And what do you see in this game against the Union where City needs to be careful? And where do you think they can take advantage if they're able to take any advantage?
Well, they played at Subaru Park not that long ago. And I think both Bradley Carnell and I know Pascal Janssen would say the same thing. New York City could have and maybe should have been up 2-0 at the break. Those were the opportunities they had that they did not convert. Alonso Martinez was one of them. He dribbled Andre Blake and hit it over the bar. Now, there were defenders rushing back to help cover for Blake, but he basically missed an empty netter. And, here's their talisman, their guy, and he didn't come through in that moment. And then Philadelphia in the second half played better and won the game. I don't think New York City has any concerns going to Philadelphia. They know it's going to be difficult, but they managed to do fairly well against the pressure that Philadelphia applied by either playing through it or going over the top of it. And that's where they've improved along the way. And this is one of the, I think, positive aspects of Pascal Janssen, too, is he's developed a team that knows how to play in different ways and can recognize what's in front of them and make adjustments. Does that mean they never turn the ball over in front of their own goal? No, that's happened, but it's happened much less frequently in the second half of the season than it did in the first half of the season. So the mistakes have lessened. There are going to be mistakes at Subaru Park. They'll make mistakes, but Philadelphia will as well. And I think that's what the game will come down to, who can capitalize on something like that. But I don't really, I think, the concern, of course, will always be Subaru Park, great supporters group. It's a tough place to play in that manner. It's going to be risen to another level for a playoff game, a knockout playoff game for a team that's won the Supporters Shield. But I don't think, and like it happened in Charlotte, I don't know if you saw the third game in Charlotte, New York City had to really buckle down in that first 15 or 20 minutes. It was an onslaught by Charlotte. They held true. They blocked a number of shots, 7 on the game. They'll kind of probably have to do the same sort of thing. I would anticipate the same sort of energy for the home team coming out and maybe putting a lot of pressure on. So between the block shots and Matt Freese, hold them off, get into the game a little bit more after that. And that's the way I'd see it going. Now, they could be down 1 or 2 also, and then that's going to be tough.
How important is this battle of the goalkeepers going to be, Matt Freese versus Andre Blake?
Well, it's intriguing from the standpoint that Matt Freese in 2021 in the Eastern Conference Final took over for Andre Blake, who had COVID, to play against the New York City Football Club and lost the game 2-1. So just from that standpoint, and he's a long, played for Bethlehem Steel. I mean, he's a long-time member of the Philadelphia program, is Matt Freese. So from that standpoint, it's very intriguing. And they're 2 of the top keepers in the league. No one will deny that. So it's going to be very important. They're both very difficult to beat. And and the way the team plays in front of them, that's going to be important. And for New York City, I'd say midfield is the most difficult relationship to build. In my mind, coaching and trying to get your team together, and if your midfield is very important in how you play. Aiden O'Neill is suspended on yellow card accumulation, and Andres Pereira went out with a horrific injury in Game 3 against Charlotte. So a brand new midfield will be in store for New York City. And if you take Justin Hack out of the back, where he's been playing next to Thiago Martins in this playoff series, and have to put him in the midfield and then adjust your back line, that could be where the game turns as well.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I personally just cannot wait to see what's going to happen. Of course, this international break, like I said, it's coming in between once again. Real quick, if you don't mind, the final round, these last 2 matches for CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, out of the 12 nations right now competing, obviously maybe I would say 9 to 10 of them at this point in time. I know Bermuda's probably done and dusted. Nicaragua's probably done and dusted. Who do you like to see qualifying out of the 3 groups for the top group position to go to the World Cup?
All right, you're putting me on the spot here, so I'm gonna.
I got to.
Yeah, I haven't looked at this in a while, but look, I'm obviously rooting for Costa Rica because of Alonso Martinez.
Yes,
and their placement right now is, so if we look at the Costa Rica, Trinidad, Honduras, Bermuda. Boy, you really caught me here because Curacao. I think they've already advanced. So I was going to say I wouldn't mind if they don't advance because Dick Advocaat, I actually assisted St. Lucia at Nations League last year. I was in Curacao, and I was a bit of an ad hoc assistant. My great friend was the top assistant, and during the course of a St. Lucia training session, there were drones flying over the training session. And out in the parking lot on a motorcycle, and then up in the bleachers, both wearing Curacao kits, they were taking footage of training. So ever since, I can't believe Dick Advocaat would stoop to that. No one's ever admitted it. CONCACAF didn't do anything about it, of course. It's not like, just let it go. What the hell? But anyway, so that's all I have to say about the I haven't studied it close enough, Dan, but I am rooting for Costa Rica and Alonso. I'd love to see him in the World Cup.
Absolutely. I know Jamaica right now is in the top position in Group B. Curacao is currently second. But the ones I'm actually looking at in Group A is Suriname and Panama. And Suriname has the 1 goal plus advantage on the differential, or not the differential, the goal scored department over Panama. So it would be interesting if you had the Netherlands, Curacao, and Suriname, all 3 Dutch nations qualifying for the World Cup. That would be interesting.
That'd be very cool. There's something very cool about that. But however that shakes out, I'll be watching you more closely now, Dan, that you brought it up.
No problem at all. Sorry about that, but I'm just
right.
curious to know if you're keeping track. That's all.
That's all right.
But anyway, Glenn, Yeah, I appreciate your time as always. You always do a great job covering City, and of course your show on SiriusXM FC, the coaches corner, kind of. What's it called
Well,
again?
it's been called a lot of different things, but the actual name of it is the Coaching Academy. So there you go.
Thank you. I knew it was that, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the coach's corner, the coach's show. What else? Yeah, nobody actually seems to remember the name of it, which is fine. As long as if the coach word is in there somewhere, that works.
Yep, exactly. So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to listen to some great interviews with all these different coaches from U.S. and around the world, go to SiriusXM FC when it is Glenn Crooks' Coaching Academy show, and you'll get great insights from the man himself. Don't forget, he's a former head coach for the Rutgers women's team over, I can't say the Big East. I got to say what, Big Ten? The Big Ten now, Rutgers?
But Big Ten for 11 years now, Dan. So,
yeah,
it's been a while.
It's been a very, very long time, the Big Ten. And I know Rutgers men's actually won the Big Ten championship in men's soccer. I think, was it last year or 2 years ago?
A couple of years ago. I think it was 2022.
All right, so 3 years ago.
That was the first Big Ten championship since Rutgers joined the Big Ten for a team. So that was impressive.
Oh, that really was very happy. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, he's also the radio broadcaster for New York City FC as well. And it's great to have you back on, Glenn. Thank you so much, and good luck. Enjoy the international break, and good luck against the Union.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Glenn Crooks, ladies and gentlemen, the radio broadcaster for New York City FC, and of course, the Coaching Academy on SiriusXM FC, former Rutgers women's head coach in soccer. Always great to have Glenn Crooks on the show. Very happy to have him on. I was really grateful to have him talk about the game. So finally, San Diego FC, the new kid on the block, trying to pull a Chicago Fire, trying to get to the MLS Cup playoffs, but they beat Portland Timbers in 3 games over just amazing stuff here. Didn't expect that to happen, unfortunately. Didn't expect San Diego FC to pull off a big upset or anything. And they won game 1, 2-1 at Snapdragon, then went to Portland, and they lost in the penalty kick shootout 3-2 after a 2-2 draw. But then San Diego put on a whooping. It's 4-0 on the Portland Timbers. Anders Dreyer with 2 goals and Amal Pellegrino with 2 goals. And unfortunately, Juan Mosquera, a straight red card in the 80th minute. He'll probably serve that in the first game of the 2026 MLS season. So San Diego FC now advancing to the conference semifinals in the Western Conference. And we'll take a look at the bracket sometime after we get back from the international break. But once again, great action, great discussion, and can't wait. Get ready for the international break. CONCACAF World Cup qualifying wrapping up. European World Cup qualifying wrapping up. African World Cup qualifying for the playoff wrapping up. And the 5th round playoffs in Asia wrapping up. And then we'll get ready for the big World Cup qualifying draw on December the 5th at our nation's capital at the Kennedy Center. And let's also not forget, on Thursday, November the 20th, FIFA in their studio in Zurich, Switzerland, will be doing the draw for the Intercontinental Playoff and the European playoffs. So it should be exciting, should be a lot of fun. I cannot wait, and we'll see what happens then. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my guests tonight. I want to thank Kenta Hagiwara, covering FC Cincinnati for Area Sportsnet. I want to thank Pieter Brown for Futbol Miami TV. I want to thank Bruce McGuire from Dunord. I also want to thank Glenn Crooks, NYCFC radio broadcaster. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. And if you really want to watch this again, please come to my Feuerstein's Fire channel. I know I haven't done this a lot, but as always, make sure you click on that subscribe button if you want to be a part of this channel and watch again all my shows and learn about new shows coming in. Once again, my name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. And as always, please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long. And bye-bye for now. Have a good night.